हाँ आदिल, स्टार्ट कीजिए।
सर, स्क्रीन शेयर हो गया सर?
हाँ, हो गया हो गया।
ओके होगी।
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Pandey for giving me this opportunity. Speaking in front of the galaxy of intellectuals is always a difficult task, क्योंकि बहुत शानदार लोग इसमें शामिल है। इनके सामने मेरा बात करना छोटा मुंह बड़ी बात होगी। फिर भी मैं ये चांस लेता हूँ, ये रिस्क उठाने के लिए मैं जा रहा हूँ। with the permission of the Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Pandey ji, my topic is about the triple planetary crisis. मौजूदा जमाने में जिसमें हम रह रहे हैं, इन द 21st सेंचुरी, जब हम 21वीं सदी में रह रहे हैं, तो इंसानियत के सामने तीन बड़े संकट मौजूद है। भले ही उसने over the last 2.5 centuries, the human beings have unleashed unprecedented technological and economic change that has basically raised the living standard and has driven millions out of poverty. Despite the fact we have achieved the technological advancement, we have achieved the economic growth, but all this has happened at the cost of the environment. The increase in the population of the world, and increase in the demand for energy, food, fiber, water, land, this has basically come out at the significant cost of the environment. That is why the human beings in the 21st century are facing three important problems. There are three important issues that humanity is facing in 21st century. You can see on the left side of on the left side, you will see that there is a graph showing triple planetary crisis. One is climate change, one is pollution, and the third one is biodiversity loss. And each of these issues, ये जो हमारे सामने इस वक्त तीन संकट है, each of these issues have own causes and effects, and each of them needs to be resolved, so that we can have the viable future on this planet Earth. I would like to quote, in 2014, while addressing the United Nations General Assembly, United Nations General Secretary Ban Ki-moon said, he quoted that there is no plan B. हमारे पास कोई दूसरी योजना नहीं है, because we don't have planet B, क्योंकि हमारे पास कोई और ग्रह नहीं है रहने के लिए. We don't have any other planet to live on, because this is the only out of 8 planets Earth is considered as the only inhabitable planet because of its environmental conditions. The conditions which are present on the surface of the Earth, they are favorable for the existence of the human beings and other living organisms. And this planet Earth has achieved these conditions over the period of millions of years, because it has evolved from its origin 4.6 billion years ago, when it came into existence. जब ये धरती वजूद में आई 4.5 अरब साल पहले, और तब से लेकर अब तक to the 21st century, it has achieved these conditions which are favorable for the growth of plants, for the animals, and for the human beings. But there is a question mark. The question mark is, since the dawn of industrial revolution, जब से इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन दुनिया में आई, शुरुआत हुई in 1760, in 18th century, when industrial revolution took place, it took place first in the European countries, then it started arriving in different countries throughout the world. Then it resulted that since the dawn of industrial revolution, the environment has seen a lot of changes which are not good for the survival of human beings as well as other living organisms present on the surface of this Earth. So if you will say, I will move on to next slide. If you'll say, what is climate change? When we say what is basically climate change, जब हम climate change की बात करते हैं, basically इसे कहते हैं मौसमी तब्दीली. हमारे मौसम में कुछ ऐसी तब्दीली आना जो इंसान ने कई 100 सालों से नहीं देखी थी, या अर्थ ने पिछले हजारों सालों से ऐसा कुछ नहीं देखा था. क्लाइमेट चेंज रेफर्स टू लॉन्ग टर्म चेंज इन द क्लाइमेट ऑफ द अर्थ. जब हम रोजमर्रा की एटमॉस्फेरिक कंडीशन, रोजमर्रा के मौसमी हालात को देखते हैं, दैट इज कॉल्ड वेदर. when we talk about the day to day atmospheric conditions, हर दिन के मौसमी हालात को वेदर कहा जाता है. मगर जब हमारे पास 40 साल का डेटा हो, when we have 40 years data about temperature, about precipitation, about temperature, pressure, about wind pattern, about humidity, then we can say climate of a region. 40-year data makes the climate of a region. But everyday atmospheric conditions, weekly atmospheric conditions, fortnightly atmospheric conditions, monthly atmospheric conditions do not make the climate. They make the weather of an area. And weather is made up of 5 to 6 major elements. The first one is temperature, the second one is precipitation, the third one is humidity, then you have pressure, and then you have wind patterns. When we measure these elements for a period of 40 years, then we can say that there is climate of an area. That makes the climate of an area when we have a data of 40 years. And if you look at the presentation, you can see that climate change has been defined by IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, 1988, has defined climate change as a long-term change in the temperature and other weather patterns around the world. IPCC is the highest organization, is an authority on climate change, because it has a working group committees which are working on different aspects of the climate change. It has WG1, WG2, WG3. It has 3 working group committees which are working on the different aspects of the climate change, and they have defined that whenever the weather conditions of an area changes for a long period of time, then we can say that there is climate change. We should have at least data of more than 30 years. Then we can say that there is climate change. If you have data of 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 1 month, 2 months, that is called climate variability, because that is the variation in the elements of the weather over a period of time. Because when we wake up early in the morning, maybe there is sunshine. When we reaches in the noon, there may be slight drizzle or rainfall. That is called a variation in the weather pattern during the day, during a day, during a week, during 15 days, during a month, or seasonal changes in the elements of the climate. But climate change is a big process. It takes place over a large period of time and not less than 40 years. While these changes, the climate change is not a new thing. It's not a new thing, and it is not it's a natural thing. It has been happening in the past, and it is happening in the present times. But the rate at which it is, the important is time factor. The rate at which it is taking place now, the rate at which occurring now in the 21st century, since the dawn of the industrial revolution from 1760 to 2025, the rate at which it is occurring now, that is very serious. That is a very serious threat, because Earth has not seen such a warming in the past thousands of years taking place at such a high rate. The climate of Earth has changed in the past as well, in the Mesozoic era. That means 66 million years ago, the Earth has witnessed a 7-degree increase in its temperature. But that temperature increase took place over a period of 125 million, more than millions of years that took. But the rate at which the temperature is changing in the 21st century is taking at an exceptionally high rate due to anthropogenic activities, due to human activities, because industries are using coal and petrol and natural gas as a basic source of energy, because they have we are not here to say industry is shut down. No, we have to find the alternatives. We have to find the substitutes which are more eco-friendly, which are renewable, which are less polluting, which are more eco-friendly. So the climate change in the 21st century, it has been found that global temperature has increased by 1.3 degrees centigrade since 1850. Since 1800, because scientists have taken 1850 as a base year, as a reference year. because they have taken this year as a reference year. They compare the temperature of 21st century of this year with the temperature of 1850. What was the temperature before 1850? What is the temperature after 1850? That is why they have found the temperature of the earth has increased by 1.3 degrees centigrade since 1850, which is above the pre-industrial average, because the pre-industrial average was less, it was around 15 degrees centigrade. The natural average temperature of earth is 15 degrees centigrade. इसका जो अपना तापमान है नेचुरली जो अर्थ ने ऑब्टेन किया है, अचीव किया है टेम्परेचर ओवर द मिलियंस ऑफ इयर्स, दैट इज 15 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड. एंड दैट इज व्हाई साइंटिस्ट्स कॉल 15 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड इज द बेस्ट temperature at which human beings and other living organisms can survive on the surface of the planet earth. If there is slight change in the temperature of the earth, or if it's going above or below, it can have serious impacts on humans as well as other living organisms which are living on the surface or below the water. If you will look at the screen, you will see the concentration of the greenhouse gases which are responsible for the climate change has increased since 1850 to 2025. If you look, carbon dioxide concentration has increased from 280 parts per million to 432 parts per million. If you look at the methane, it has increased from 750 parts per billion to 1830 parts per billion. And if you look at the nitrous oxide, which is also known as laughing gas, increased from 275 parts per billion to 330 billion. These estimates are not mine. These estimates have been given by the IPCC in their latest report they have published. And if you look at on the top side of this presentation, you will see the carbon dioxide is contributing 50% to the global warming. Methane is contributing to 18% global warming. Nitrous oxide is contributing 6% global warming, and chlorofluorocarbons which are being used in the refrigerators as well as ACs and rocket propellants, they are contributing 14% to the global warming. And global warming has resulted in sea level increase, because there is increase in the sea level because of the melting of the ice in Antarctica and Arctic. If recent estimates have shown that that Antarctica has lost 150 billion. That Antarctica is losing 150 billion tons of ice per year due to global warming. If you look at the ocean acidification, the pH of, which is very important regulating factor as far as the chemistry of the water is concerned, pH is considered as the most regulating factor in water chemistry. Ocean pH has also changed due to dissolution of more carbon dioxide, because industries are using the fossil fuel. They are burning fossil fuel and they are releasing carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide into the atmosphere. And our oceans, which are considered as the sinks of carbon dioxide, they are absorbing more and more carbon dioxide, and as a result, their pH has changed over the period of time. As a result of this change in pH of oceans due to absorption of the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, this has led to the decrease of corals in the which are carbonate based ecosystems in the oceans. It has resulted in the coral bleaching. Coral bleaching has resulted because of the change of pH of oceans over the period of time. And climate change has also resulted in the precipitation changes. Sometimes there is more precipitation, more rainfall in an area. If you take the example of the Jammu and Kashmir floods of 2014, take the example of the Chennai floods 2015, take the example of the Kerala floods in the recent times, take the example of the Spanish floods in 2024, take the example of the devastating landslide in Kerala, Wayanad, which recently took place. Take the example of the other natural hazards, which are their frequency has increased, their intensity has increased due to the climate change and global warming. Take the example of the drought. When we come to the drought, more and more droughts have occurred in the dryland areas. Dryland areas are those areas which are already facing the shortage of water. because of their geographical position. They are already facing facing lot of problems due to their geographical position. And now global warming is increasing the level of frequency of the droughts in dryland areas of the world, because 33% of the population of the world lives in dryland areas, because they cover 41% of the Earth's area is covered by dryland areas, and they fall within the latitude of 30 to 35 degrees centigrade, 30 to 35 north south latitude. They are already facing large number of problems, and there is decrease in there is melting of glaciers and ice caps. As far as the recent report has came out, and it has said that Hindu Kush Himalayas as well as the Indian Himalayas is likely to lose 80% of the glaciers by 2100. That means there is continuous decrease in the glaciers and ice caps throughout the world, and Himalaya is considered as the third pole of the world. We have two poles, Antarctica and Arctic, but Himalaya is considered as the third pole because it is the origin of the top 10 rivers of the world. They originate from the Himalayas, and they are source of drinking water for millions of people living in this Indian subcontinent. And there is the sir was talking early in the morning, we were talking about the food insecurity. Global warming and global climate change is increasing the food insecurity worldwide. Because if you will take the example of the Africa subcontinent, particularly sub-Saharan Africa and the high mountain regions of the Asia and South America, more than 340 million people are at the risk of food insecurity. And second, and the important thing in the context of the Indian subcontinent is the report published by the Indian Space Research Organization, that is ISRO. They recently published a report. They said they were talking about the glacial lake outburst floods. More than 600 lakes are expanding in the size because there is increase in the melting of the glaciers and the ice caps in the Himalaya, and as a result the volume and the size of the lakes is increasing, and it's posing significant threat to the population who are living downstream, who are living in and around these lakes. Take the example of the Sikkim Sikkim Lake, Lonak Lake, which exploded in 2023. Take the example of the glacial outburst in Ladakh Leh, which took place in 2017. Take the example of the Kedarnath episode, which took place in 2013. They were all related to the fast melting of the glaciers in the Himalayan region, which are posing significant threat to the human beings and the other living organisms which are living in and around these lakes. Take the example of the recent wildlife fires which took place in the Hollywood area of the New York. That is Palisade area, because humans have changed the landscape, because they have dehydrated the landscape. We have dehydrated the landscape, and they become vulnerable to these wildfires. They easily catch fire they easily catch, and there is increase in the heat waves, and there is increase in the incidence of the diseases due to climate change. And second important thing is that is pollution. Pollution is creating havoc throughout the world. If you take what is pollution? Pollution is basically the introduction by human activities. जब हम किसी चीज को दाखिल करते हैं, किसमें? नेचर में, डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली कोई चीज हम दाखिल करते हैं which is not actually part of that system. That is why we call them xenobiotics. They are foreign substances, and we are introducing these foreign substances into the natural environment, whether it is soil environment, whether it is air environment, whether it is water environment, whether it is our social environment. We are introducing them through our activities, and they have serious effect on the human health, on the health of the living organisms, and they result in the reduction of the amenities, attractiveness. Like when there is pollution of a lake, people don't want to visit the lakes which are polluted. People don't want to visit those areas which are highly polluted. Why should I go to the place which is highly polluted? I would like to visit those areas which are clean, which are delight to watch. तो उन जगहों पे मैं क्यों जाऊं जो बहुत गंदे इलाके हो या गंदा पानी जहां पे हो. People are attracted towards the beauty. तो उसे हम कहते हैं pollution. And if we look, there are 4 to 5 types of pollution. You have air pollution, you have water pollution, you have noise pollution, you have marine pollution, you have soil pollution, you have radioactive pollution. We have different types of pollution. Take the example of the air pollution. Throughout the world, according to the WHO, World Health Organization report published in 2023, they have published that air pollution is considered as the serious single largest health and environmental problem throughout the world, that is resulting in the premature death of 7 million people throughout the world. Take the example of the water pollution. Because our survival is directly dependent on air and water. Take the example of water pollution. Water pollution results in the death of more than 1.4 million premature deaths throughout the world, in the form of cholera, diarrhea, dysentery, vomiting, and other related. And more than 2.2 billion people throughout the world still lack the access to clean drinking water throughout the world, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asian areas. Take the example of the noise pollution. Recently, the European Union has published the report that there are 12,000 premature deaths due to the noise pollution. And because it increases the palpitation and heart rate and other mental problems when you are continuously being exposed to the higher levels of noise. So, and it have serious impact on the health of the fetus within the womb of the mother. जो बच्चे होते हैं ना माँ के बतन के अंदर, उन तक इस पे असर पड़ता है when they are continuously exposed to the higher level of noise in and around particularly in and around the airports. उन पे देखा गया, the studies have found that. और इसी तरीके, if you take the example of the air pollution, there was a time when we were using the leaded petrol. एक वक्त था कि अब तो उसमें बैन आ गई है, now we use unleaded petrol. इससे पहले leaded petrol इस्तेमाल किया क्योंकि lead is a important anti-knocking agent. एंटी नॉकिंग एजेंट के तौर पे वो काम करता था. तो पहले जो पेट्रोल इस्तेमाल हुआ करता था उसमें लेड आया करता था, लेड ऐड किया जाता था एज एन एंटी नॉकिंग, क्योंकि वो इंजन का पावर रिड्यूस होने से बचाता है. तो नॉकिंग जो होती है ना उसके अगेंस्ट वो काम करता है, एंटी नॉकिंग एजेंट. मगर देखा गया कि द लेड प्रेजेंट इन द एयर, तो दैट इज हैविंग टेराटोजेनिक इफेक्ट ऑन द fetus within the womb of the mother, because that passes through the placenta, that crosses the placental barrier. जो माँ और बच्चे के दरमियान जो रास्ता होता है जहां से गुजा जाती है अपने बच्चे के लिए, तो उसको क्रॉस करके वो बच्चे में चला जाता है. It can have serious impact on the health of the fetus within the womb of the mother. Take the example of the plastic. Boom, 8,300 million metric tons of the plastic have been produced throughout the world. So plastic production has surged over 400 million tons annually. हर साल 400 million tons plastic is being produced throughout the world. And if you will go by the statistics, it has been predicted that by 2050 the global annual plastic production will reach 1.1 billion tons per year. It is the short life cycle of the plastic, single-use plastic, that has been banned by the government of India in 2021. That was banned by the India. Single plastic use has been banned because that is the biggest problem with the plastic, single plastic use. When we get the plastic, we throw it without being used at second time or continuously used, we throw it. और इसीलिए देखा गया है कि globally only 8% of plastic is recycled, 12% is incinerated. Incinerated is a basically scientific technique in which plastic is burned at a temperature of 500 to 700 degrees centigrade. And 80% of plastic that is being used worldwide ends up in landfills or is being discarded directly into the water bodies or into the natural environment. And take the example of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Scientists have found that in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, there is an area which is of the size of Texas state of United States of America, and it is covers an area of 6,20,000 square miles, and it is completely filled with the plastic items. And there, according to one of the estimators, there are 5.25 trillion pieces of plastic debris in the oceans throughout the world. और उसकी वजह से दुनिया में कितना नुकसान हो रहा है दुनिया के मुल्कों का, because it costs them $30 billion per year in economic costs, including cleanup cost and financial losses in fisheries, because the presence of the plastic is having significant negative impact on the health of the aquatic organisms. It is killing them, and it is destroying our fisheries in the fishery industry, on which billion of people are basically dependent on our fishery industry throughout the world. It's completely destroying it. Take the example, the third important thing is that is biodiversity loss. The biodiversity, when we talk about the biodiversity, what is biodiversity? It is basically, biodiversity means sum total of all living organisms, whether it is microorganisms, whether it is plants, animals, invertebrates, vertebrates, whether it is human beings. It is the complete package of all the organisms present in different forms on the surface of Earth as well as in the aquatic ecosystems. And do you know that biodiversity underpins the human life? It is responsible for myriad of the ecosystem services. Whatever services, whatever goods we are using in our day-to-day life, we are basically obtaining all these services and goods directly from the biodiversity. If we will take the example of the drugs we use to treat the different disease, 80% of them, 80% of the drugs that are being produced by the pharmaceutical giants throughout the world, they are basically they have obtained the design from the nature, or from the plants, or from different animals, because plants and trees are the important source of the different medicines. 80% of the medicines which are used throughout the globe, they have their origin either from the plants or animals, or they are designed from the nature. They have obtained this design from the nature. Take the example of the WWF, that is World Wildlife Fund. They have published a report in 2024 that is called a Living Planet Report. According to this report, 73%, there is 73% decline in the world wildlife population since 1970. 1970 से देखा गया है कि दुनिया की जो बायोडाइवर्सिटी है इसमें कम से कम 73% की कमी देखी गई है. They are reassessing this statement. They are continuously reassessing this statement throughout every year, because they want to basically they want to be very sure when they are publishing this report, because 73% is not a small thing. It's a very significant amount. 73% is a big amount, but they have found that according to IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, they have published their report since 1965, and they have assessed 166,000 species throughout the world, whether it is invertebrates or vertebrates. They have assessed 166,000 species, and they have found out of 166,000 species, 46,300 species are facing significant threat with extinction. 44% of coral reefs, 26% of mammals, 34% of conifers, 26% of freshwater fishes, 38% of trees, 12% of birds, 37% of sharks and rays, and 41% of amphibians are facing significant threat due to climate change and global warming and other human activities. They are posing significant threat to the biodiversity throughout the world. Now, how to address these crises? Now we have international organization which are working in close collaboration with the national and other national other countries like UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. You have UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program. You have United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. You have United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. They are publishing reports, they are accumulating information, they are publishing reports every year, and they are helping governments throughout the world how to address these problems which are confronting the humanity in 21st century, whether it is climate change, whether it is pollution, or whether it is biodiversity loss. Now, you have these international agencies like UNFCCC, UNEP, CBD. They are basically publishing reports every year, and those reports are basically helping the governments throughout the world to implement certain rules and regulations in order to protect their natural environment, in order to mitigate the climate change, in order to prevent the pollution of the existing water bodies, and to restore the polluted water bodies and other forest areas. Now, how we can make difference at individual level? एक इंसान कैसे इसमें तब्दीली ला सकता है? We can consume less, reduce your consumption of goods and services. That means इस concept को कहा जाता है ecological footprint. When we consume less, that means we are reducing our ecological footprint. That was a concept that was given in 1990s by William Rees. That's called ecology. Mathis, Wackernagel, and William Rees gave the concept of ecological footprint. They said that if humanity want to survive, they have to reduce their ecological footprint. They have to consume less. They have to produce less waste, because we have limited water, we have limited land supply, we have limited soil resources. So we need to consume less so that we generate less waste. Second thing is walk or cycle. We have to change our attitude. The best thing to save our environment is to change the attitude, to behavior towards our environment. We have to take the environmental responsibility. We can change sustainable transportation options. We can go by walk, or we can take the cycle, or we can go for the pooling of carpooling as well. Recycling is one of the important things. That is recycling, reduce, reuse. We can go for these options. Use less water, conserve water. Conservation of water is very important when it comes to the reduction, when it comes to the reduction in the ecological footprint. And we need to advocate for the action on the triple planetary crisis. हमें उनका साथ देना चाहिए जो हमारे माहौल को बचाने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं. We need to advocate that. We need to support those. So there is an urgent need to call for an action before it is too late, because it can have significant impact on the survival of the human beings and other living organisms. Because ये हमारा नहीं है, ये आने वाली नस्लों का है, और उनके लिए हमें कुछ छोड़ के जाना है इससे पहले कि हम सारी चीजें तबाह करके जाए. थैंक यू सो मच.
बहुत बढ़िया आदिल. विद द रेफरेंस, विद ऑल, बहुत बढ़िया. वेरी गुड.
थैंक यू सर.
इसमें ऐसा कोई डेटा नहीं था जो तुमने अपनी तरफ से बोला. विद द रेफरेंस ऑफ ऑल, तुमने यूनाइटेड नेशन का रेफरेंस दिया, क्लाइमेट चेंज मीटिंग का रेफरेंस दिया, WHO का रेफरेंस दिया, और अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज का तुमने रेफरेंस दिया, और ऑल द डॉक्यूमेंट्स ऑलरेडी इन द पब्लिक.
यस सर.
जिसको तुमने इतने अच्छे तरीके से, द डेटा इज ऑल्सो इन्वेस्टिगेटेड, नॉट प्रेजम्पशन. तुमने डेटा का यूज बहुत अच्छे से किया. वाटर पोल्यूशन को भी तुमने डेटा वाइज एक्सप्लेन किया, है ना, रिपोर्ट के आधार पर एक्सप्लेन किया. कार्बन का कैसे समुद्र के अंदर जो तुमने पैसिफिक सीज उसके बारे में बताया, वो भी बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स कोस्टल एरियाज के बहुत ज्यादा हैं, जहां पर अदर कंट्रीज के जहाज धीरे से जाकर डंप करके चले
Yes,
आते
sir.
हैं।
Yes, sir. Government of India has taken several steps in order to restrict the other countries to dump their waste in our nautical miles, which are the coastal areas.
हम
And
लोग
in addition to this, Government of India has taken the step to that is green hydrogen program. Green
हाँ
hydrogen program has been, and there is solar international solar alliance.
बोला
One one globe, one grid that has been taken by the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, while talking at the international stage. They have already taken this, and the life mission. Life mission means we need to change our attitude towards the environment. That has been already taken up by the Prime Minister of India. And there is another Swachh Bharat mission that was launched in 2014. That is another is One Sun, One World, One Grid project. And renewable energy, India has made, they have made a promise at the international stage during the 29th COP that was recently had in Baku, Azerbaijan, that India is likely to reduce their carbon intensity by 40, more than
40।
40%, 40% by investing more in solar energy as well as other forms of energy which are less polluting and more eco-friendly.
वेरी ट्रू, ये सारी रिपोर्ट्स मैंने देखी है। वेरी ट्रू आमिर, एप्रिस, बहुत
सर, आप
अच्छा।
किस सब्जेक्ट के हैं? पहले तो आप ये बताओ।
I'm from environmental science.
इन्वायरमेंट,
यस।
इन्वायरमेंट, आदिल आदिल
Yes, sir.
आदिल,
Yes, sir.
जो चीज इंपॉर्टेंट है वो जरूर हम लोग को समझनी चाहिए।
Yes, sir.
ये इन्वायरमेंटल साइंस का ये टीचर है,
Yes, sir.
इसको भी क्या पढ़ी थी?
नहीं
देखो
सर,
इसको
नहीं सर, नहीं
इसको
सर।
देखो, इसको भी क्या पढ़ी थी, वो भी पढ़ा देता सिलेबस। लेकिन तुम
सिलेबस
इस
नहीं पढ़ाया ना सर इन्होंने।
सुनो सुनो
सर,
सुनो,
इन्होंने ओवरऑल
पूरी पूरी
एनवायरमेंट इम्पैक्ट पढ़ाया आपको। सर वो
पूरी बात तो सुनो, पूरी बात सुनो। मगर इनको आज की डेट तक की रिपोर्ट्स मालूम है। मतलब ये समझो कि अजरबैजान की रिपोर्ट को भी इसने उल्लेखित कर दिया, जो अभी रिसेंटली 3 मंथ पहले की बात है, 3 या 4 मंथ, ठीक है। और उसके बाद देखो, इसने इंडिया के सारे इनिशिएटिव्स बता दिए कार्बन उसके लिए, ठीक है, सोलर सिस्टम के लिए। मालूम, हम लोग अपना जो समुद्र की बाउंड्री है उसको भी हमने ज्यादा एक्सपेंड किया है, और
Yes,
उसमें भी कई चीजों पर रिस्ट्रिक्शंस दिए।
it
और
is.
और सबसे पहले क्लाइमेट चेंज को यूनाइटेड नेशन में सबसे ज्यादा एम्फसाइज करने वाला भारत ही था। लंदन की मीटिंग थी ना, क्यों?
Yes.
ब्रिटेन में जो मीटिंग हुई थी ना, इसमें फर्स्ट इंडिया ने उसको ये किया था कि क्लाइमेट चेंज पर एक ग्रुप बना था, जिससे अमेरिका बाहर हो गया था बाद में।
G77.
हाँ,
G77.
G77। तो वो भी इसने, अच्छा ये देखो, ये रिसेंटली डेवलपमेंट्स को इसने स्टडी करी है। हर
Basically
रिपोर्ट,
अमेरिका
हर
अमेरिका ने
डॉक्टर
विड्रा
आदिल पढ़ते
अमेरिका
हैं।
ने विड्रा किया था फ्रॉम पेरिस क्लाइमेट एग्रीमेंट व्हिच टुक प्लेस इन 2015.
पेरिस पेरिस
Paris
क्लाइमेट,
Climate Agreement in 2015, where it was said that that developed nations have to take the lead. But उन्होंने कहा कि developed nations ने कहा developing nations को you have to take the lead. Basically, they are the biggest emitters.
और
They are
एट
the biggest.
प्रेजेंट, अभी आज कल की खबर बताओ।
So now at COP29 में कहा गया कि they need to.
आदिल आदिल आदिल, कल की खबर बताओ।
सर सर काल
जब ट्रम्प जब ट्रम्प ओथ टेकिंग किए तो क्या क्या किए, सबसे पहला स्टेप?
जिसने पेरिस एग्रीमेंट से पुल बैक किया था वही अभी फिर से प्रेसिडेंट बन गया।
यस सर।
अरे कल क्या किया मालूम तुमको? उसने बोला कि जितने भी ईवी व्हीकल्स हैं उसके सारी सब्सिडीज को हम माइनस कर दे रहे, नहीं देंगे, और डीजल एंड पेट्रोल यूजेस को बढ़ाए। तो जितनी सिख डीजल और पेट्रोल कंपनीज थी उनको प्रोवोक किया और बोला कि हमारे डीजल और पेट्रोल का बिकना जरूरी है, और अपने देश में ये क्रूड ऑयल की खुदाई को परमिशन देने की।
यस सर।
मजा आ गया, मतलब कितना उल्टा पड़ा।
यस
मतलब पूरे क्लाइमेट चेंज से इंटर करने की तो बात ही छोड़ो, और ऊपर से भी उसने और अब वो कर लिया। चलो, थैंक यू सो मच, बहुत बढ़िया। तो अब हम लोग सभा को यहीं समाप्त करें। मेरी एक बार घंटी बज चुकी है नीचे पिताश्री की, उनको लेके हॉस्पिटल जाना है। तो कल का जो प्रोग्राम है, कल प्रोफेसर सुरेंद्र सिंह सर का लेक्चर है, ठीक है। और सेकेंड हाफ अंशुम